Climbing back upon Mount Soapbox for another rant. And today, I'm going to make the case that Red Harlow is not Uncle. Now, this has been a back and forth theory debate going on for many years now. All you gotta do is go through YouTube and you will see several videos, I think at least from 9+ years ago, that go back and forth about whether or not Red Harlow is in fact Uncle. In my opinion, no, that is not the case at all. They're two separate characters. The information we're going to go with is from my own personal knowledge because I've played Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption 1, as well as Red Dead Redemption 2. Plus, we're also going to go by information from Red Dead Wiki. By the way, your thoughts, your views, your opinion on this specific issue. Is Red Harlow Uncle, or do you believe that Red Harlow and Uncle are two different people? That is welcome below in the comments section. Now, where should we begin with the side-by-side comparison contrast between these two characters? I suppose at the beginning, their origins. Red Harlow was young, and I don't know if he was born in Broken Creek, but that's where Red Dead Revolver starts, in Broken Creek. Meanwhile, Uncle, from what information we know about Uncle, was born somewhere in Ohio in the year 1849. Now, if we go by the timeline of Red Dead Revolver, which is set in the 1880s, when Red Harlow is a wee lad, and if there's a 20-year difference between when he was young and when he's an adult, that would imply that Red Harlow, in his youth, was at Broken Creek with his mom and dad in sometime around the 1860s or late 1850s, which means Uncle is technically older than Red Harlow. So right there, two cases against Uncle being Red Harlow. Uncle is clearly older than Red Harlow, and Uncle was born in Ohio, which is in the east. And if you go by the geography of Broken Creek, it feels like it belongs more out in the Midwest or out in the western region of the United States. Now, regarding the nickname One Shot Kid, which is what Prince, one of my subscribers, and others use to say that there is a connection between Red Harlow and Uncle. The truth is, One Shot Kid is very generic. Just because I happen to have this specific nickname doesn't mean I'm the only person with that nickname. For example, my sisters like to call me Dub or Dubber. I'm sure there's plenty of other guys out there, and maybe some girls, that have the nickname Dub or Dubber. Does that mean that we're the same person because we have that nickname? No, it doesn't. Therefore, the argument that One Shot Kid being Red Harlow and Uncle's nickname being the connection that proves that these two are the same character leaves a lot to be desired. It's, for all intents and purposes, very weak so-called evidence. Plus, as we've just pointed out, Red Harlow was born and lived at Broken Creek, not two crows. Next, we'll go with parents. So, Uncle, we have no idea who his parents were. That is unknown, so that's a big question mark right there. However, we do know who Red Harlow's parents were, Nate and Falling Star Harlow. Nate was Caucasian. Falling Star was Native American. She was a member of the Red Wolf tribe, which is where Red Harlow gets his name, from the Red Wolf tribe. And family members include Running Moon, who is Falling Star's father, which makes him Red Harlow's grandfather. And then Shadow Wolf is the cousin of Red Harlow. Meanwhile, we know very little about any other family relations for Uncle, except for somebody named Jeb, which was either a cousin or an uncle. Uncle is also alleged to have two ex-wives. Family-wise, that's pretty much all we know about Red Harlow and Uncle, but it paints the picture that these are two completely different characters. Now let's talk about distinct markings and health issues. When it comes to Red Harlow, he has some facial scars, plus he has a scar on his right hand as a result of events at Broken Creek when he was very young. He used his father's Scorpion revolver to shoot an individual without trying to spoil Red Dead Revolver. This caused a massive scar on the right hand of Red Harlow, which he's had since childhood. Meanwhile, Uncle allegedly suffers from lumbago, and he clearly has no scar on his face or right hand. More proof that Uncle is in fact not Red Harlow. Let's talk about the weapons of choice that these two gentlemen happen to use. Uncle likes to use a cattleman revolver, and according to Red Dead Wiki, he also can use a custom Schofield revolver. Meanwhile, Red Harlow, when we're first introduced to him as an adult, he uses the old pistol, which you could say is Red Dead Revolver's version of a cattleman revolver. Ironically, it's called an old pistol when it's actually a revolver. Now, the main weapon that Red Harlow ends up with is a Scorpion revolver. Only 2 Scorpion revolvers were made in Red Dead Revolver by his father. He ends up with the other one that still exists. And you could make the argument, if you do a side-by-side comparison between the Scorpion revolver and the Navy revolver of Red Dead Online, that perhaps the Scorpion revolver is, in fact, a variation of a Navy revolver. Meanwhile, the only revolvers that we see Uncle use in Red Dead Redemption 2 and 1 are cattlemen or a custom Schofield revolvers. Uncle does use other weapons besides revolvers, but I just wanted to focus specifically on revolvers in this case. So once again, if Uncle was in fact Red Harlow, would he not have that Scorpion revolver still in his possession? Just some food for thought, especially since it's an important sentimental family heirloom that was made by his father. You think that after the events of Red Dead Revolver, Red Harlow would definitely be holding on to his Scorpion revolver at all costs. Now let's talk about the occupations that these two individuals have. Uncle is an outlaw, and eventually he becomes a ranch hand at Beecher's Hope. Meanwhile, Red Harlow is a bounty hunter. Not exactly an outlaw, kind of on the opposite sides of the spectrum. On one side you have the law and bounty hunters, and then the other side you have outlaws. Uncle has never been a bounty hunter. He's always been an outlaw. And even though in his later years he ends up being more legit as a ranch hand at Beecher's Hope, still, most of his life he was an outlaw. Whereas Red Harlow was a bounty hunter. So a big difference there when it comes to the occupation of these two characters. Another obvious difference besides the physical differences between these two characters is their voice. For one thing, Uncle's voice actors include Spider Mason from Red Dead Redemption 1 and James McBride from Red Dead Redemption 2. Originally, fun fact, John O'Cree was going to be the voice actor for Uncle in Red Dead Redemption 2, but sadly he passed away in 2016 and was replaced by James McBride for Uncle in Red Dead Redemption 2. However, the voice actor for Red Harlow was Robert Bulge, who also voiced Steve Haynes in Grand Theft Auto 5. Theoretically, since Grand Theft Auto 5 came out before Red Dead Redemption 2, if Rockstar wanted to tie Red Harlow to Uncle, then they would have simply got Robert to voice Uncle in Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. However, they went with completely different voice actors for Uncle than Robert Bulge, who once again voiced Red Harlow in Red Dead Revolver, as well as Steve Haynes in GTA 5. Now let's talk about the time periods that these games are established in. Red Dead Revolver's main timeline when Red Harlow is an adult is in the 1880s, whereas Uncle's time period is from Red Dead Redemption 2, 1898, 1907 to 1911 in Red Dead Redemption 1. Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to the time gap between these two characters. Next is the associates that make these two characters completely different, because neither Red Harlow or Uncle have come across the same people throughout the West. For example, the associates that Red Harlow makes includes Annie Stokes, Jack Swift, Buffalo Soldier, as well as Shadow Wolf. Uncle never encounters any of these characters in Red Dead Redemption 1 or Red Dead Redemption 2. He is mostly aligned with the Vanderlyn gang, including John, Abigail, Jack, Charles Smith, Jeb, 2 ex-wives, allegedly, Arthur Morgan, Bill Williamson, Miss Grimshaw, etc. Once again, Red Harlow never encounters anyone from the Vanderlyn gang in Red Dead Revolver or any of the characters that we have mentioned that are an acquaintance of Uncle's. Now let's move over to points of interest and locations. For the most part, they have been in completely different areas throughout the events of their games, respectively. When it comes to Uncle, from Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, Blackwater, Coulter, Valentine, the state of Lemoyne, Beaver Hollow, as well as Beecher's Hope. Meanwhile, in Red Dead Revolver, Red Harlow has been to Broken Creek, Twin Rocks, Widow's Patch, Brimstone, Tarnation, Rogue Valley, Bear Mountain, Sunset Canyon, Fort Diego. Now, there is one specific location that has always been up for debate. That is Twin Rocks, which allegedly exists in both Red Dead Revolver as well as Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Some people made the argument that this connects all these games together. Others have made the argument that these are two separate Twin Rocks and are not necessarily the same Twin Rocks. However, let's just say for a moment that this is in fact the same Twin Rocks in the 1880s in Red Dead Revolver as it is in Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1. Even if this is true, Uncle has never ventured to Twin Rocks in Red Dead Redemption 1 or Red Dead Redemption 2. However, Red Harlow did back in the 1880s. So even if this is the same Twin Rocks, it doesn't necessarily mean that Red Harlow is Uncle, because chances are Uncle's never been to Twin Rocks as far as we know, even though clearly Red Harlow has. Now we're going to talk about these two specifically, their personality, which I think is a big factor that points towards these being two completely different characters. You have Uncle, mostly humorous. He likes to drink, he's lazy, he complains all the time, he's a procrastinator. He's generally a lighthearted guy. He's loyal, and in a firefight, he will pull out his weapon, he will help you out. He's nowhere near as good of a gunfighter as Red Harlow is, however, and that leads us to the personality of Red Harlow. For the most part, he's a very serious guy. Sometimes he'll crack a joke or two. He has some humor to him. He has a very good composure to him, but he's not one for small talk. Not exactly the type of guy that beats around the bush or procrastinates when it comes to a situation. He goes somewhere, he does a job, he goes and gets to it right away without wasting any time. Obviously, the personalities between Red Harlow and Uncle conflict. So how could Red Harlow have all these personality traits in the 1880s, but then within a short period of time become a completely different person personality-wise? Because he's been with the Vanderlyn gang for quite a while, and one of the big reasons why Dutch keeps him around is because he's entertaining, because of his sense of humor, because he makes people laugh around the camp. With the exception of a joke or two, Red Harlow is not exactly a comedian. Which leads us to the final obvious difference between the two. They dress different. One of them is the main protagonist of Red Dead Revolver. The other is at best a secondary character in Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2. I know there's a lot of theories out there, and some of them are quite interesting, and some actually make sense. But then there's those that really just leave a lot to be desired. In order for a theory to actually make sense, the dots have actually got to mostly connect. But when it comes to the case of Red Harlow being Uncle and vice versa, I find that very few of these dots connect at all. Now, there's some theories in Red Dead universe that I do prescribe to. For example, Baylock, Micah Bell's horse in Red Dead Redemption 2, being the dark horse in Red Dead Redemption 1. They obviously look very similar. One is a little bit older, and it would be older by the time 1911 rolls around from 1899. So it does make sense that Baylock and the dark horse could be one and the same. It's just like the vampire hunter, former President Abraham Lincoln once said, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet." Anyways, that's my honest opinion about this whole Red Harlow being Uncle nonsense. I think that I've done a pretty good job of debunking this theory, but I want to know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you still believe that Uncle is Red Harlow? feel free and leave your thoughts, your views, and opinions, whether you're on one side of this debate or the other, below in the comments section.